Many people know the film as just an old Nickelodeon movie, and they have never thought about its real message. In this video essay, I will analyze and explain the themes, messages, and even the references made in the movie Rango. The movie Rango came out on March 4th, 2011, and was directed by Gore Verbinski. The main character Rango was voiced by Johnny Depp, while some other notable cast members were Alfred Molina as Roadkill, Isla Fisher as Beans, Abigail Breslin as Priscilla, Bill Nye as Rattlesnake Jake, and Gore Verbinski himself as Sergeant Turley. In this video essay, I will focus on three main points. I will first talk briefly about how the movie Rango fits into the Western genre. Then, we'll talk about how the movie shows the evils of corporate capitalism, and I'll finish off with the big main theme of the movie, which will be Rango's identity crisis. I will only briefly summarize the whole story of the movie, because I already assume that the viewer has watched the full movie before watching this video essay. I'll first start with a quick rundown of the Western genre, and from then I'll explain why Rango fits into it so well. The Western genre has a long history in America. It started off as this showcase of the American Wild West. It would show the people of the West as down-to-earth and noble people, often showing the government as evil or villains, and very commonly showing racist depictions of Native American and Indians. Rango is one of these westerns. It shares the most similarities with the spaghetti westerns of Sergio Leone, with all of the settings and characters having this grittiness to them. The main character Rango is a direct reference to Clint Eastwood in A Fistful of Dollars. He, at first, is a man with no name who arrives at a town which he ends up saving. He even meets a human who looks just like Clint Eastwood near the end of the movie. Despite this, Rango still stands out from the other westerns, despite having the plots and themes of many other well-known western movies. The movie actually makes direct references to many famous western movies, some of them being Once Upon a Time in the West, A Fistful of Dollars, and The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. For one thing, throughout the movie, almost no humans are shown, yet every character in the film feels very human, each with their own quirks and little details that make them stand out in their own rights. The entire movie takes place in the desert, specifically a small western town made up of mostly human trash. Everything we see seems to be reused items like bottle caps and hair clips, since our point of view is the same as these small animals. Despite these huge differences, everything else feels straight out of a normal western. The music comes from a mariachi band seen on screen. There's multiple horse riding scenes, a Mexican standoff, and at the end of the movie, the hero even gets a girl. Every aspect of the movie feels so cowboy in a way, yet there are no actual cowboys in the movie. It has to be appreciated how Gore Verbinski was able to deliver a perfect sense of mise-en-scène in a funny movie about animals in the desert. The final note, and another reason why Rango fits in with the whole Western genre, is its plot about the frontier justice man against law. This is ironic, however, because the entire plot and even the antagonist of the movie is a direct reference to Chinatown, which is not a Western film. This brings me to the second part of the video, which is about how the movie Rango shows the abuse of power by the government and the law. In the beginning of the film, the city Dirt is a failing, run-down town. The people have little to no water and no way of obtaining any new sources. Unbeknown to them, this is caused by their own mayor, who has been withholding the water so he can buy the town's land for cheap. By the time we are introduced to the town, only one resident still owns their own property, that being Beans. This plot sets up the villain for the story, the mayor, and to an extent, the town's government as a whole. Enter Rango. Upon entering the town, the main character of the story almost immediately gets appointed sheriff and starts receiving the hero treatment. Rango makes his goal as a sheriff to help the people of the town Dirt and fix their water crisis. He becomes the new law of the town, and although he's bad at it, In the beginning, he later proves that he's deserving of his job and title. In the beginning, the mayor tolerated Rango. He immediately saw through Rango's act when he saw him, and he only let him play the sheriff role to distract the townspeople from what he was doing. But Rango got too confident. He started sniffing around and came to the conclusion that the mayor had to be the one responsible for the water crisis. He confronts the mayor and Turley reveals his scheme to Rango. Through it, we can see the greed of the mayor, which is very similar to the greed of monopolies and corporations in real life. He wanted to control the water, and to some extent the people in the town, so that he could buy all the property and own everything. Rango leaves after hearing this, but before he had a chance to speak out against the mayor's crimes, he was silenced. Rattlesnake Jake, outlaw of the West, arrived. On the mayor's orders, he exposed Rango and drove him out of the town. Turley then used Rattlesnake Jake to pressure Beans into selling her father's land. These actions by the mayor show both the evils of the government and capitalist corporations, and their abuse of their power they hold. Yet to stop this big evil, it only took one man, or lizard, I should say. Rango, the morally right protagonist, goes against the law, fight this greed and evil of the mayor. In doing so, he becomes a Wild West legend and hero. This brings me to part 3, the identity crisis and character development Rango goes through during the movie's runtime. When we are first introduced to our main character, he has no name. He is nothing but a pet chameleon playing make-believe inside his terrarium, and he's aware of this, and it makes him want to be more of someone who really matters. This desire is what pushes the story of the movie. It starts with him being nothing more than an actor, someone who's just playing the part, but it ends with Rango becoming a real Western hero. Rango's desires seem to literally come true as he was thinking about them. He's actually thrown out of his comfort zone and stranded in the Mojave Desert. He is instantly forced to survive the harsh heat and predators before he runs into Beans, who brings him to the town of Dirt. The second Rango arrived in Dirt, he started acting. He copied the citizens he saw outside and made up wild stories to the people inside the bar. It was by luck alone that he ended up killing the hawk and was appointed sheriff by the mayor. Rango was still acting. He was still just a house pet and a coward. But most of all, he was a fool. After some time as a sheriff, he starts to take the job more seriously. He understands that people in Dirt need a real hero, and that he needs to help them. This begins the second stage of Rango's character development. He's acting as this brave sheriff, but he starts to believe in himself, that he actually is the hero people see him as. However, this confidence doesn't last long. Mayor Turley decides to put Rango back in his place by calling in Rattlesnake Jake, the famous outlaw. Jake arrives almost immediately, destroying Rango's sheriff's sign and exposing his fraud to the citizens, driving him out of the town. This begins the third stage of Rango's character development. In being cast out, he finds the true meaning of what he must do and what must become for the townspeople of Dirt. This only happens after he crosses the same highway from the beginning of the movie and collapses after he makes it to the other side. While asleep, Rango sees a vision of the spirit of the West, who ended up just being a man with a metal detector and a golf cart. The spirit talks to Rango, and talking to him, he gives him the strength to solidify his will. Rango then makes a plan, using the help of Walking Cactus, the Prairie Dog family, and the Armadillo. He heads back into town and challenges Jack, using the newly brought back water to surprise him. And although he gets Jack right where he wants him, the mayor interrupts by holding Beans hostage. This, however, only stops Rango shortly. He's able to escape with Beans and inadvertently save Rattlesnake Jake, after the mayor attempted to betray him and shoot him. This favor causes Rattlesnake Jake to make a truce with Rango, and instead of attacking him, he decided to leave, dragging behind him the mayor. This was the last stage of Rango's character development. He was brave, he meant something, and he was a hero. Through his actions, he earned the respect of the townspeople and even Rattlesnake Jake. In doing so, he became exactly what he wanted to be in the movie's beginning, a legend. Someone who really did something with his life. And that was the story of Rango. He started out as just a pet chameleon and a fraud, but after rising up for the sake of others and conquering his internal conflict, he became a hero who went down in history.